I couldn't believe, Gordon, is how you could get that much in the trunk of a car. How did you do it?
Well, I mean, I think firstly I measured the space and I realised that it's about 330 litres, and to fit 403 bottles of whiskey in there was quite incredible,
isn't it? And you've still evaded capture. We've started the show, Gordon. It's Whisky Unscripted.
Hello.
Episode 6, Season 4, and can I just tell you, this is the 44th episode.
What's that noise?
That's a plane. I'm on the flight path.
You're on the flight path of Glasgow Airport. Very good. Yes, our 44th episode. Can you believe it? And episode 6 of series 4. So, very excited. Coming up to the end of... Sorry, carry on, yeah.
No, I was just going to interrupt you there, Gordon, because you've just said, what's that noise? Any self-respecting student of NCIS or any detective show will realise that's how the kidnapper gets caught, because the police are listening in the background and they would know I was in the flight path, and if I did
very good
have someone buried in the garden, that had only an hour of oxygen left,
that's a good point. And I think that the moral of that story is not to really go around burying people in your garden.
No, that's this Unscripted has taken a very bad deviation.
Exactly.
Gordon,
yes.
Gordon, I've got some audio coming up of my recent trip to Amsterdam.
That is very good. You've got some audio coming up as this is a podcast.
Good. So, the news. We're now recording this in the 12th, 13th, 14th of November, the time it goes out. News has taken a slightly downturn out of the Netherlands. That was me there.
So you were there a couple of weeks ago. I think the Netherlands has got a lot of cases, as does everywhere. It's not. And the big show this weekend at Den Haag, the Whisky Live Den Haag International Whisky Show Den Haag, has been cancelled. Unfortunately, I was going to be heading out to that, so that is a shame. But I think it's just a sort of sign, if you think of what we've been through in the last 18 months, it's all been a little bit sort of, don't really know what's going to happen long term. So I think there's a little bit of that. But on the other hand, Daniel, our colleague who looks after the US, is currently in the US for the first time, being allowed to fly there as of this time last week, sort of early last week. So it sort of swings and roundabouts, as it were. But it just shows you that this is still quite an unpredictable virus, unfortunately,
isn't it? And it just managed to get a little window of tasting, as it were, to get across to Amsterdam. So that's kind of coming up later on in the podcast. But Gordon, most weeks we task you with looking at some of the whisky news as we look at mid-November 2021. Anything caught your eye?
Well, of course. I mean, the news of last week was, of course, the launch of Tamdhu Distinction. I mean, there was a lot of other things going on, but of course, we've launched a new Tamdhu, which is only available through retailers, specialist retailers. So you can't buy it on the website. I've got a bottle of it here. This is it here. It's
I'll try and put a wee clip up.
If you can. Beautiful. So what makes this different is, of course, very quickly, is that Tamdhu's only matured in sherry casks. I think we've covered that quite a lot in the podcast. This one is only matured in the American oak element of those sherry casks. So a very different style to the European oak sherry casks, which are darker, and in our 12 or 15 in our other batch strength, we combine those two together. So this is one distinctive side of the maturation of Tamdhu. So beautiful vanillas, beautiful stewed fruits, beautiful sort of fruity style, absolutely gorgeous, 48%, and available through your specialist retailer. So get in touch with them.
I think that's great. I think for note to self, for another episode before Christmas, it would be great to collate some of the great whisky purchases that you might want to buy yourself or a friend, and other gifts and other books and things like that. So we must get a little Christmas special, because gifting is so important. And I assume with Distinction, there'll be the alternative sherry cask coming out in the future.
There may well be. That depends on just the stocks and things like that. But there may well be another side, to it. But we'll see. We'll just see how that goes. So yeah, that's the latest release. But there's been other huge amount of activity going on this week as well, hasn't there, Gordon?
Oh, there's been loads. I think we mentioned in another podcast, because of the rules and the pandemic and the lockdowns, this is almost a cork being pulled from a bottle, as it were, using a metaphor. And we've had loads of releases building up to Christmas, really. It's a massive time for the industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know which ones you want to pluck out from the...
Well, I mean, there's a couple, but I mean, we if we look at Glenfiddich, launched a specific whiskey for Cop26. So for those who've been not listening to the news, Cop26 was finished up technically this last weekend, and Glenfiddich were launched a 26-year-old with Stop Climate Chaos Scotland. And it was all for a sort of charity element, raising funds to tackle climate change. And it's good to see releases like that. Glengoyne, of course, we did one at Glengoyne, which was in partnership with the Wetland Trust, which is our sort of partner, because of obviously Glengoyne and the Valley of the Wild Geese and the importance of wetlands. It was a single cask. It sold out very, very quickly. But again, it generated money to support the Wetlands Trust. So good to see brands doing that, of course. And generally, it's good to see more and more brands speaking about what they're doing from a sustainability perspective, because it's something we need to do. It's something we're continuing to look at. Glengoyne has done a lot. We need to do more across the business, but it's a really exciting time from that perspective, and it's going to become more of a factor, I think, in people's decisions about which whiskies they drink and things like that in the future. So really good to hear. Amazing.
I would love to hear. I'd love to hear that. Do you think that actually the decision on the shelf could come down to your sustainability story and how clean and green your whiskey is? That's amazing if it does come down to that.
I don't think it will come down to that exclusively. It'd be a factor that people consider. So if we look at the world of whiskey in the last 10 or 15 years, we've seen a move to more independent producers. Not suggesting that the big corporate guys aren't doing a good job, but there's definitely more provenance. More people want more provenance. They want more history. They want more understanding of how their whiskey is made, and sustainability feeds into all of that. So I think that makes a lot of sense, and that's something we as a business talk about a lot, and other brands do as well. So we've also seen that taste-wise, people move around the whiskey industry. So if you look at a distillery like Nickneen, for example, which is our first carbon neutral distillery, I think, in Scotland, they've done really, really good job. They're creating a really good legacy already for their brand, and it's really interesting to see. And obviously, being a new distiller and a distillery, that's an easier proposition to get to. But certainly from a perspective of older distilleries, existing businesses, it's a bit more of a job. But certainly we all need to move down that road. And we saw the report, which we did as part of COP26, and our release, which was, stark at times in terms of the influence that climate may have on the future of whiskey. And so I think everybody realizes how important the climate is now. So it's just a matter of the Scotch whisky industry is a small part of that.
Yeah, a couple of things there, Gordon. As part of this COP26, I was asked last week to appear on camera to a news network out of Thailand, which I think you know them quite well.
Yeah.
So it's a news channel, and that was... So I did my research, as you do, and what I found staggering, was about the wetlands. And I thought I knew quite a lot about the wetlands, but further research revealed that 5% of the planet is covered in wetlands, yet they capture 30% of the terrestrial carbon. And wetlands can be built in a year. We built ours in under a year at Glengoyne. It's capturing carbon, it's cleaning waste. And you mentioned at WWT, the Wetlands Trust trying to expand wetlands. What a story that is, if you can push money into this area. I thought that was amazing.
Absolutely. And let's talk about the elephant in the room, because there is an elephant in the room, and it's peat. Peated whiskies use peat, and the amount of peat that we use is not a lot. Let's be very honest. But if you go to Islay, you drive along the road from the airport to Bowmore, for example, you can see where the peat has been cut. And it slowly, very, very slowly regenerates, as we know, over thousands of years. So in the short term, cutting peat is as long as it's is it sustainable? Not particularly, if we're honest, I don't think. But it's something that needs to be looked at, I think.
Yeah.
And if peat, we know peat bogs are really, really important to the climate and how much carbon dioxide they absorb. I don't think the amount that the Scotch whisky industry uses is really going to make any difference, so I don't think it will become a factor, but it's something that we should certainly just be aware of, and that and it's a small factor, but it's something that we need to just be aware of course.
That's correct, and it's a lot of these industries are offsetting. This is what it's all about, offsetting. And when you see what the wetlands can do in capturing carbon, there may be something in the future where you can offset. By the amount of peat you take from one source, you can build wetlands in another and capture as much, if not more, carbon.
Of course, yeah.
It's a very complicated.
Well, it swings and roundabouts, and it's a little bit. If you think about the internal combustion engine, that is it's done us proud for many, many years, but it uses fossil fuels. So now the move is to electricity. My personal thing about electricity and batteries is you have to mine to get the metals to make the batteries. I'm pretty sure they're not recyclable as they are at the moment. Any car battery is recyclable, or any battery particularly is recyclable. And how long do they last? You have the same issue that you have with a lot of things. So that's a personal view. I don't know enough about it. And if people do know more about electric cars, please tell us, but just a personal view. It's an improvement, of course, but you then are going to use more electricity and you're mining more of the world. So, it's not easy, this, and
it's the energy source. Full stop, Gordon. That's exactly after the camera stopped rolling with my new friend from the Asian News Network. That's the big question that he's going around. He was at COP, interviewed virtually all the big players, and it's this: where do you get clean energy from? It's still got to be innovated. Exactly. There's still got to be a future out there. And he was off to see Nick Neen, who are using wood to burn in their furnace. And that wood comes from a sustainable forest. But still, it's not maybe where it should be if we can find a source of clean power, whether it's hydrogen or I don't know, but it's not.
Look, I totally agree with you. And I mean, it's really, really interesting just to be aware of all the factors that come into it, and whiskey has to deal with them all as well. And I don't think it's an easy thing. We all have to change our lives, and it will be interesting to see how that develops. Now, what I would say, though, having just come back from the Isle of Skye, I was on Skye last week. The one thing that struck me, having been on Skye and having been also on Jura and Islay in the last couple of months as well, is that if you look at Scotland, we produce a lot of wind power, and all of our power currently at Glengoyne is renewable power, which is great. But apparently, generally, it's not been windy in Scotland in the last sort of 3 or 4 months. So the sort of percentage of power has dropped off a little bit. What is really interesting, and I saw a really interesting part about it up in Orkney, was tidal power. Now, you have this wonderful sort of big contraption that sits in the sea with big turbines, big wheels, big fans that turn around, for want of a better word, collecting all that power, that water moving through them. And I think that's a real area that we could look at, because you're always going to have tides. Every year there's always tides. There's certain bits of Scotland that have fast moving water. You can produce a lot of electricity. And I think that's an area that we need to look more at. But anyway, I would like to talk about Skye, Gordon, before we move on to Amsterdam and speak to some of the people I met over across there. Yeah. It's such an amazing, magical island, Skye. It is. Talisker there, and also a lovely blended Scotch called the Isle of Skye. And was that something? Is that a clue for what you were up to? Yes. So yes, we for years, if you look at the name of the business, Ian MacLeod is a very Skye. It's Clan MacLeod from the Isle of Skye. So there's a strong connection to Isle of Skye. And we own the Isle of Skye blended Whisky, which is a very famous blend, which, we are putting a little bit more impetus behind, which is great to see. It's a beautiful blend that has at the lower level an 8-year-old sort of that smoky style. We did some tasting videos for them recently.
Good.
And it goes 8, 12, it goes, 18, 21, 25, 30. So you have an amazing array of blended whiskey up to a 30-year-old, and there's very few 30-year-old blended whiskies. And that mellowness just comes in as we go through them, and you get into this beautiful, sumptuous sort of sherried 30-year-old beautiful whiskey. But it's sort of iconic. It's an old historical recipe from the Isle of Skye, from Clan MacLeod. So I was on Skye doing a little bit of filming last week to help out with this sort of relaunch of the brand for as it were. But my first thing about it is blended whiskey is fabulous. It still is fabulous. I was drinking Isle of Skye 8-year-old out on a moor in the Isle of Skye, and it was the whiskey I wanted at that point. And that's the beauty of this whiskey. But for those who've never been to Skye, fabulous place, iconic sort of landscapes everywhere, and just a wonderful, wonderful place to spend time. And it was still really busy in November. I mean, there's a lot of people on Skye. And I remember hearing a couple of years ago during the summer, it was just full. Skye is full. But there's a lot of people still touring around Skye, which was amazing.
And you just mentioned with the Isle of Skye 8-year-olds, and before I went to Amsterdam, I went down to do a tasting at the Birmingham Whisky Club, which is great. So if anybody's listening from there, it was a great evening. And I decided that night, because I think maybe you'd influenced me, I decided to start with the Isle of Skye 8-year-old. Just as a sort of it's very competitive price-wise. And it's got an age statement on it. And I have to say, it went down really, really well.
It's a
I think
great
people
whiskey.
were surprised. Because usually I took down the Glengoynes and the Tamdhus and the Smokehead, but
Beautiful.
this was a nice little curveball just to start off with. And people
fabulous.
really get into it. And I think for me, that number, 8, and I did my research, Gordon, 8 was quite a big age number in the days gone by. A lot of 8s in the old days. Not so many now. So that's harking back to the old days. I love the 8-year-old in a blend.
Look, there's some great blended whiskies out there, and we've spoken about blended whiskies on here before, and they should never be forgotten. They should never be, downplayed. They're fabulous drinks. They're different, but they produce, you really are combining different elements of an orchestra together. You're creating an orchestra, should I say, with the different elements of the single malts coming together. And if you do it well, you can produce great stuff like we do with Isle of Skye. So yeah, that was great. And just great to see the Coolins and, go to the fairy pools and do all those sorts of things. So it was really nice few days.
For those students of movies as well, Gordon, the opening scenes of Prometheus, the Ridley Scott movie about Alien, set on the Isle of Skye. And I know one of your absolute top movies, Maid of Honor, starring J-Lo, also filmed in the Isle of Skye.
Was Maid of Honor filmed in the Isle of Skye?
Oh, well, you should know. You always ask me to watch it when I come round.
Maid of Honor really films J-Lo on the Isle of Skye?
Yes, and
I didn't know that. The other one is Stardust.
Of course.
Who's written by Jonathan Ross's wife, and had Robert De Niro, Michelle Pfeiffer, Ricky Gervais. It was a sort of fantasy film. Anyway, filmed on Skye. That's
right. The Star That Falls to Earth. That's a really good one. And a Harry Styles video as well, where he's filmed in a crane flying over. So it's an amazing place, Skye. That's great. Listen, another amazing place is Amsterdam. And this was the Art of Drinks. And I think I was quite lucky to get across. We see what's happening in Europe. There was a window opened up and I managed to get across there to do a whiskey and drinks festival, but I took my trusty recorder, Gordon. And
excellent.
I spoke to our friend Luuk at the Monnick. Now, before we begin, would you just explain, because we have spoke to other importers on the podcast, but just explain the Monnick and Luuk's part before he does it.
So the Monnick basically import all of our brands into Holland. Family business, very similar to ours. Really great people. Luuk, I think, is he's the sort of second generation, third. I'm not sure which generation he is, but Luuk is from the family. He's the managing director. I think his dad's still involved in the business as well. great team of people. We have, and you were over there obviously with them. So Luuk, they import everything from Edinburgh Gin to one or two other brands, plus obviously Glengoyne, Tamdhu, etc., etc. Great guys. And they put on this big festival, Art of Drinks, didn't they?
I recorded him last.
Okay.
So for purposes or reasons that will come obvious, let's go to, in reverse order, let's speak to Luuk right now. This is what happened.
Before you do, did you have any bitterballen?
We did. There's little balls of, it's like croquettes.
Yeah, they are like croquettes, yeah. You had some.
Yeah.
Excellent. Just wanted to check. So, and one more thing. Luuk can wait 2 seconds. What are you drinking today?
Oh, Gordon.
How have we not covered that?
I know. I tell you what, let's go to Luuk. I'm coming back. Let's cut to Luuk and let's get the drinks sorted in this next session.
Excellent.
Right now, what are you going to ask me? I have no idea. Huh? It's Whisky Unscripted, Luuk, so I've got it's unscripted. It's 6:10. It's Sunday. We've got about less than an hour of this fantastic event, Art of Drink, and I've managed to corner the man, or at least one of the men in charge of this whole event. Sir, what's your name, and could you tell us what you do?
My name is Luuk olde Monnikhof, and together with my partner Albert van Beek Kalkoen, we organized an event called the Art of Drinks in Amsterdam. What we are doing over here is just giving people an experience about spirits. So it's a trade show for consumers, for retailers, for on-trade outlets, and we are communicating from the brands. So it's a communication about the products. We do a lot of storytelling. We do a lot of tastings, and we enjoy ourselves.
Could you just paint a picture, Luuk? Could you explain where we are and why did you choose this? What is an amazing venue?
It is. It's actually a remarkable.
It's like a Bond villain's lair.
It definitely is a remarkable place. So it's called the Westergas. It's an old gas factory. So it's very good looking environment. And people are enjoying themselves, I think.
Why did you choose it?
Because it's a unique location, so we want to pick something that's unique, that people like. So it's a good setup of stands in a great location.
How many stands are here?
Total, I would say around 70 different stands. So spirits, wines, whiskies, craft beers. So they all come together at this place.
It's absolutely amazing. And we do an insider's guide on the podcast. We've had people that make the whiskey. We've got, sort of looking behind what people actually do in this industry. Your company, just explain what your company is and what you do.
We are actually our company name is the Monnick Dranken, and as I explained, we organized the event, the Art of Drinks, together with the partner Albert van Beek Kalkoen. His name is actually. You can find him on Instagram. His name is Mr. Cocktail, so it's well known in the industry actually. But back to our company. It's the Monnick Dranken. We are a family-owned company since 1918. Like E. McLeod actually, also a great family company. So we, I can say we share the same values, Gordon. That's it. Yeah, definitely. So we share the same values. As an import, we import from 35 different countries all over the world, including Scotland, of course. Don't forget Scotland.
Never have thought 35 countries. That is amazing.
In total, so many countries. But what they have all in common is that they, most of them are family-owned. They have a big focus on heritage. They have a big focus on quality. That's important for us.
And do you have to go to these places? How do you choose?
That's a very good question.
Yes,
that's a very good question.
At this time on a Sunday, it's maybe too much.
It probably is, but I mean, for us, it's always. Of course, we do our research and we do our analysis, and based on that, we make decisions if we start with the company or not. But most important for us is, do we share the same values? And that's definitely the case with Ian McLeod. And if we think that we can give a product the focus that it deserves, and if there is a market for in the Netherlands, then probably we will have there will be some space in our portfolio to sell it.
And you mentioned with the Netherlands market, you did, I thought, very interesting. You divided the days up.
That's true.
Which sometimes you just go to these events, it's just 3 days, but you very cleverly divided the days up into different sections.
It's definitely the case. So what we did is we have 3 different days. Every day we're focusing on a different audience. So on Saturday we welcomed a lot of consumers. On Sunday we were focusing on retailers. And on Monday, today actually, we welcomed a lot of on-trade outlets, horeca as we call them in the Netherlands.
Yeah. Excuse me, I said at the beginning it was Sunday. I've lost the day, Luke.
That's a good sign, Gordon. That's a good sign.
That's good. And my final question, highlights. What's been the highlight? Obviously you're going to say the Ian McLeod stall, but honestly, not just a joke, but what surprised you, what has delighted you when you've been walking around in the last 2 or 3 days?
Besides the Ian McLeod stand, of course. I think it's the whole concept. So we wanted to come up with something that's unique. We want to come up with a platform where we can welcome all groups that are involved with drinks, which is consumers, business. Which one do I forget actually? That's it. Business and consumers. So on trade, off trade. So we all welcome them in this place. Exactly. Different categories, beers. So if let's say an on-trade outlet is very serious about his business and is thinking about his concept, he should be a satisfied man when he's walking over here, because there's a lot of choice. There are a lot of things you can, a lot of new ideas which can help any entrepreneur for the future.
And I have to say, it's a thriving market in the Netherlands, isn't it, for spirits and for wines. It's been great. I've done some master classes. Humour is great as well. Great humour here. I like a bit of banter as well.
That's true.
And I like their whisky. So I think there's lots of similarities between Scotland and the Netherlands in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, but it's a fun industry, Gordon. So, I mean, it's an industry where fun and work is coming together. I mean, if you don't like to go to a bar, probably you will not suit the job, is it?
Correct. And my last question, will there be another one?
Definitely yes.
Look, on that note, thank you very much for being in Whisky Unscripted. We have done it, yes.
Thank you, Gordon.
Very good. Now, let's get on to the order of the day. What whiskey are you drinking today?
Well, you surprised me earlier on there. So I went for my old staple, the Glengoyne Cask Strength, which is one of the great whiskies. This one is batch number 8, and it's 59.2%, Gordon.
Oh, nice. Well, I'm going to take your 59.2% and I'm going to top trump that. What? I am drinking a 60.1% alcohol whiskey. And I want to tell you a little bit about this whiskey because it's an interesting whiskey from the Sherry Bomb Whiskey Appreciation Society online.
Yes.
And it's from a good friend of mine from there, which is Sean Russell. Sean has sent me some of these little samples of what was their deployments, their whiskies, which they have procured, as it were, from these distilleries. And so I've got the Scotch Whiskey, Sherry Bomb Whiskey Association Deployment 3, which is an Arran, a 2013 Oloroso Hogshead, 7 years old, 60.1%. And it is a Sherry Bomb for sure.
Oh, lovely.
Beautiful.
That is
nice, young, punchy whiskey, really lovely whiskey. And I want to say thanks to Sean for that.
I like that. And I, obviously, Sean, are empty-handed, but I'll make do with a wonderful cask strength from Glengoyne. Another chap that likes a Sherry Bomb or any whiskey is our friend Dale Perry from Douglas Laing.
Dale.
So
yes.
I thought we'd just nip back to Amsterdam and give us a wee chat about Dale and Douglas Laing after this, Gordon.
It is 11:10. I think the event has officially started on the Sunday. Fresh as a daisy. Straight to bed with no... Okay, I'll stop that conversation because they're not believing me. I'm now at... Well, could you introduce yourself, sir, and what is in front of us?
Dale Perry from Douglas Laing and Company, European Sales Manager. First of all, you were viciously lying about last night. Saw you in the bar. And in front of us, we've got the remarkable regional malts. So a series of blended malts that are the ultimate distillation of Scotland's kind of major distilling regions. So we've got the Epicurean from the Lowlands, Timor's Beastie from the Highlands, Scallywag from Speyside, Rock Island from the Scottish Islands, and Big Pete, famous Big Pete from Islay.
Now, were you doing you're doing a masterclass yesterday?
Yes.
How did it go?
It went very well.
What happens? I'm doing one shortly.
Yes, you're looking for tips?
Yeah. In an interview style fashion.
Sure. It went very, very well. So we'd sold out masterclass. We're doing the regional malts.
Pay a little bit extra at these events.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and come and attend the masterclasses. So we did this core range of the regional malts. So we ran them through a kind of journey of Scotland, and it went very well. It was a Saturday night, so everyone was in very good spirits, and it was a great crowd.
And explain, because I had a look in myself, explain what they're all doing. It's not traditional big speakers and a microphone and you're booming out.
No.
Explain how they've set it up here, because it's quite clever.
It's very clever. It's truly 2021 tasting, where we've got a Brittany mic on, so I was strutting my best dance moves, and then we had everyone hooked up with
the dress was too much.
The sequin dress was a bit much, but
right.
Had the microphone on, and the microphone was hooked up to everyone's headphones, so they tuned into the channel that you were on, and you could speak at normal voice level, and they could hear you perfectly well. So they had what looked like silent disco headphones on that were all lit up, and it made it quite like unique and quite exciting, and put everyone in good spirits. So it worked very well.
Did it? Kids, then the rest of the room was a big wine tasting room, and they were carrying on regardless.
Exactly. So it's quite a noisy big room. So ordinarily in these masterclasses you'd have to shout and get all hoarse by the end of it, but it was great. You spoke at normal level, and it was a wee bit of novelty factor as well. And believe it or not, technology was totally seamless, which is unexpected.
Wait, I get my hands in it.
Yeah.
And a quick, your colleague here as well. So what's your name?
Hi, Scott McDonald.
Scott McDonald. Listen, guys, how was your travel? We're in Amsterdam. First time I left UK in almost 2 years. How did you find travelling?
Yeah, probably a little more laborious than normal, but it's good to be back out on the road.
It's good, isn't it?
It's great.
Yeah.
Big difference from Zoom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the kind of atmosphere here is brilliant because everyone's out and speaking face to face for the first time, and there's a real buzz. So it's brilliant to be back travelling.
It's amazing, and once you finish a Zoom tasting, you usually go back into the living room.
Correct. Yeah.
Unlike the bar.
Yeah, I was going to say
Allegedly.
Yes, which wasn't me.
Yeah, deny.
So it's all working out very well, travel-wise, and
yeah, it's a wee bit more admin heavy, which is a wee bit of a pain. We're just sitting doing our passenger locator forms at the moment, but it's worth every minute spent because it's brilliant to be back out face to face. It's not the same doing it on Zoom, as you say.
Okay.
Probably the new norm as well now.
Yeah.
Note to self: passenger locator form. Right, okay. What's that? Cheers, guys.
I do know Dale very well. Yes, I've known Dale for a long time. Very good friends with his father that I've sailed with for a long time, Clark.
All right.
And Dale, I've known for a long, long time. Just got married relatively recently as well. But he's a top man, and really, I think he's been at Douglas Laing for about 2 years now. So a really great guy, and good to see him doing so well with a great company as well.
And what's quite nice about these shows, when you go abroad, usually somebody's heading back to the airport. Dale was, and jumped in the taxi with him. Mm-hmm. It was an old kind of beat up taxi. I closed the door and a bit of plastic come off in my hand.
Oh dear.
So I spent most of the trip going to Schiphol Airport trying to put the plastic back into the car. And then I said to Dale, let's get your side of the door. I don't want to, I think it was broken already, but I just didn't want to take the chance. So there was the dangers of travelling abroad. But another chap I was about to speak to, I think you know him as well. I
do, yes, Ross as well. So, yes. So I know his father very, very well, and his mother very, very well. I do, yeah. There's a lower common. I do a lot of sailing, and so I've sailed with Ross's dad for a long, long time in the past, and as I've sailed with Dale's father. But it's great to see these guys who are a little bit younger than myself and you, not much, but just a little bit younger, really coming into the industry and really wanting to be out there talking about whiskies, and I think they're both very good at what they do. So, yeah, Dale and Ross are both good friends of mine, as are their parents and things. But yeah, great to see Ross there as well. I think he works with Loch Lomond now, so some great brands out there, and I'm interested to hear what he's got to say.
Let's go.
And it's Sunday. We're about 2:20. It's been quite a long weekend.
Indeed it has, Gordon.
Indeed, I'm in need of some inspiration.
Long morning for you after your 4 smokeheads, big man.
So, sir, can I ask your name and what lovely whisky have you got on the counter here?
Yeah, of course, Gordon. So I'm Ross. I work for Loch Lomond Group. So this weekend, second whisky show since Corona. We're doing just the full range of Loch Lomond. Glen Scotia had a masterclass yesterday. We went through the 312s for Loch Lomond. So that's kind of been the main focus in most of our markets.
So just give us a wee, for people listening, give us a wee gallop round the range here, because it's lovely.
Yeah,
colours.
well, we've got our what used to be able to be called a single blend, of course, but we've got our reserve and signature, our blended Scotch. We've then got our, in the black bottle, we've got our single grain. So this is a single grain peated, 100% malted barley. So really quite an interesting product, something you don't see every day, a peated single grain.
So that's it, to just explain, you've got pot stills and you've also got...
Yeah, so within the malt distillery, we've got a coffee still as well. So we distill using 100% malted barley for a single grain.
In the coffee still?
In the coffee still, exactly. And we take a cut about sort of 85%. So it's a nice, you get, the malted barley gives it that nice kind of creaminess that you don't get from a lot of other single grains. And then last year we just launched this peated single grain as well. So it's quite something.
That sounds quite unusual.
Very sessionable, so nice, very mixable. It's very unusual. I don't know if there are any other peated single grains, to be honest. But it's lovely. And then up to the kind of the malt range, we're going all the way up to 30.
Oh, hello.
And the main focus has been on our 312s this weekend. So it's 312s aged exactly the same way. Just the different distillation styles you get at Loch Lomond, kind of giving you that bit of differentiation. So
that's clever. Give us a quick insight into that.
So we've got the Inchmurrin first of all, which we take a relatively high collection from our tall neck, or what used to be called Lomond pot stills. So you get lots of fruity flavour. Really, I don't know what you do at Glengoyne, but we do a minimum of a 4-day fermentation, so you get lots of fruity character coming through there. Then we've got our classic 12-year-old perfectly balanced. It's a combination of 4 different spirit styles. So when I explain that to people, they think I'm talking about a blend, but I'm not, of course. I'm talking about 4 different spirit styles from within Loch Lomond. A little tiny bit of peat smoke there, but nothing major. Again, spirits from both of the tall neck pot stills and the traditional. Then we've got our Inchmurrin, which I call our kind of vanity project. It's a combination of 3 heavily peated spirit styles. So from our tall neck stills and our alembic style pot stills. What you get when you distill with the tall neck pot stills with peat is you get much more of a kind of smoky spiciness, much less of a whack in the face that you'll get from some of the Islas. But we combine that with some spirit from our swan neck pot stills as well, which gives you that more medicinal peaty flavour. So it's really beautiful. If you handed 4 smokeheads already, I'd top you up.
That's a great idea. Same age, just different styles.
Yeah, exactly.
How did the masterclass go?
Oh, well, it was all right.
Good fun.
Quite enough, but it's brilliant backup chatting about whisky. I feel like, talking about Glen Scotia and Loch Lomond, 2 completely different distilleries, but no, Netherlands, great to be here, great to be in Amsterdam, can't complain.
And just explain what it takes to get here, and as a travelling ambassador.
Oh, it's a nightmare. So for me this week, flying over, negative PCR test, your vaccine passport, landing, your passenger locator form on the way home, day 2 PCR test. It is a ball ache to get here.
It's been but worth it.
It is worth it. It's great to be back. I mean, last night, Gordy, you stepped up to the plate and said some nice words about your whisky, and you said a lot of nice things about the whisky community, and I think the guys in the Netherlands really are good at bringing us together, and it's just great to see all the faces again.
It's great fun, these events, isn't it? For people listening to this,
it's
great fun.
In a whisky ambassador point of view, everybody thinks they see all the fun side of it, and they see us away, having a few drams, a few glasses of wine last night. And they think that life is jolly and it's easy, but they forget the mornings are the mornings are short and the evenings are long. Gaudy. So it's it's. I mean, all my mates think my job's really glamorous, but you know, there's the hard side to it as well. It's hard graft, and then these are kind of the rewards for us, I guess.
I've not seen Amsterdam. Really, I've not seen a bit of it.
No,
People think, you've been to Amsterdam? No, I've been to Hull.
Stuck in the hotel for 7 hours a night, then in here.
And I have to say, it's been a while since I've been on my feet for about 8-9 hours, and I woke up yesterday morning with cramp.
Well,
have you ever woke up with cramp before?
Well, no, I'm a bit too young for that, Gordy, but no, but I tried to be the big man, and I bought a new pair of loafers to try look a bit smarter. But my feet are kaput. I've got my trainers on today.
That's one of the secrets. If anybody's out there listening, get yourself a good pair of trainers, sneakers.
Exactly. You know, exactly.
But finally, you've chosen a hotel with a bit of fitness.
Yes.
As well. This is another angle.
You're taking
this to another level.
So any aspiring brand ambassador or whisky salesman, get yourself in the gym in the morning. That extra hour in bed does you no good. Trust me. Get out there, get some exercise, walk to the shows, do a bit of exercise, and it freshens you up for another 43 drams this afternoon. No doubt. Right. And what shows are you doing for the rest of the year, Gordy? Are you coming back to Europe at all?
I'm not too sure what's happening. There's a big announcement made here about the Hague.
Yeah.
I think a big announcement.
Yeah, we're waiting until tomorrow night.
After this goes out, of course. But
I've been hearing from various suppliers. My background's typically, despite being a Scotsman, my background's been selling rum until now. But I'm hearing the Hague's one of the best ones. Yeah, and I'm hearing there's a karaoke bar after the show, and
that's right.
I'm looking forward to it, but it seems like we might get the rug swept under our feet tomorrow night. We'll wait and see. But that's the life of a whisky ambassador just now, isn't it? Where COVID dictates how many shows we can go to, and our world has changed.
Exactly. But I tell you what, the whisky hasn't.
No, it hasn't.
Look wonderful. Listen.
Superb, mate.
I love you leave you. I'm going to see what's happening down here. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Cheers.
It must take you back, Gordon. You were going to go to the Hague this weekend, and you hear the noise and the fun in the background there. It was great to get across and speak to people like that. But that's a great brand, Loch Lomond.
Yeah, they've done great things for sure. They've got good people there. They're producing some lovely whiskies. I had a taste of their Glen Scotia 25. Very, very lovely. There's another one called Victoriana or something like that. Really, really nice whiskies. So there's a few good ones out there for sure. And so great to see them there. And I think they're, and obviously Loch Lomond is a sort of a sort of brand, as it were, with different distilleries. Douglas Laing, quite a different proposition, obviously, as really known for an independent bottler, although they have bought Strathern Distillery, which is a very small distillery, but they're doing some interesting things with, because I actually met the managing director, who's a friend of mine, Chris Leggett, recently.
Oh, yeah.
And also they're looking at still building a distillery in Glasgow. So it's all go there, which is great. But great. Both good businesses.
Great businesses, and they're all doing very well. And it's great. You're sitting cheek by jowl beside them. But just round the corner, Gordon, there was a Belgium whiskey maker who are not known for making Scotch whiskey, but and I remember Koenraad from when he came across to Glengoyne for a behind the scenes day. If you're listening to this and you want one of the best experiences there is in whiskey, full stop, and I mean that, try and get a ticket for the behind the scenes day at Glengoyne.
Oh, it's fabulous. It's fabulous. And we're hoping, depending on what, that we can do it next year. We looked at doing it virtually, didn't we? And we just decided that it wouldn't be the best experience, because it really is taking you round a distillery to the bits you don't see, the bits that you don't get to go on. And that's why it's such a unique day. And everybody came away from we did it twice, and they all came away going, wow, what an experience that was. And we shut the distillery for the day. We get 35 people. It's only open to about 30 to 35 people. And we give you some lunch, and we pour you lots of whiskey and obviously responsibly. And we take you around, we get different characters there. So John will be there, you and I will be there, Stuart, etc., really giving you that insider's tour, that real special day, which has always been loved by everybody that's been. So let's hope we can do it next year.
Correct. And we did it for our distributors as well. That's what I was thinking in my head.
Exactly.
That was the same format. And Koenraad from Filliers came along. Gordon,
did,
just a quick word about Filliers.
Well, a historic business, obviously, in Belgium, import our brands. And it's a market that's really come up on the last couple of years, because I remember about probably 3 or 4 years ago, there was a big tax increase on alcohol, and actually a lot of the, it really dropped from our priority list because of that. And, but now Belgium's doing really, really well again. And it was a big show in Belgium this weekend just past called Spirits in the Sky, which we don't really do. But I know there was a lot of people out there. Celine and Stuart Buchanan as well were out there he's from Benriac. So there's a lot of people out there in Belgium in that market, one of the biggest shows out there. But Filliers are, great business, historical business in terms of what they produce, now producing whiskey, import whiskey as well. And they're good partners to work with.
And I've just picked up an old friend here, and he's got a coffee in his hands, which I don't think you had one of those last night. Sir, what's your name and where are you taking me?
Hi, I'm Koenraad. I'm the sales and marketing director of Filliers, the famous Geneva distillery of Belgium.
Ah, yes. Which you gave me a small taste of yesterday. It was lovely.
Indeed.
And it's not just Geneva you're making. You gave me a lovely whiskey, and that's what we're going to have
Indeed, we launched about 2 years ago our single malt whiskey matured on sherry casks. So I think it's quite unique outside of Scotland to have that kind of whiskey on the continent.
Very interesting. And how do you find the events? Is this? It's the first time this event's been run, but how are you finding the?
I think the environment is quite extraordinary. I think Amsterdam has soul, and this fair has also a lot of soul. So it's more than just a fair. There is something more to it here. So we will really like being here.
And you have got a pretty big stand. Could you just describe what we're looking at right now?
Well, that's our stand. Yeah, it's a pretty big stand, and the focus is mainly on barrel-aged Geneva, because in the Low Countries, mainly Belgium and Holland, Geneva is still pretty big as a category, and we really want to promote the barrel-aged Geneva because we see it a little bit as our mission to see that our children and grandchildren still remember what Geneva is all about, and Geneva deserves to be a little bit more premium looked at than what it is right now. So that's
and was that the case in the past as well? Was that a little bit overlooked and not as premium?
Well, it was mainly about young Geneva, not aged, and we really put the focus the last 50 years on aging Geneva, and it's really become a total different spirit. It's very close to whiskey. It still has the juniper punch in it, but still it can really be very competitive with all the aged spirits that are more and more in traction across Europe and across the globe.
And it does look like whiskey. And as you say, you could actually argue that long ago it was the same, and then they split, and one became whiskey, one followed the gin path, the Geneva path.
It does have a very, very long history, and I think personally Geneva is at the base of a lot of spirits that arised about 200, 300 years ago. Not only gin, but also whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
And tell me why the whiskey, why did you go down the whiskey route, and what are you maturing your spirit in? You create this lovely spirit from malted barley?
Indeed.
And then you put it into casks. What casks?
Well, for our single malt whiskey, we only use sherry casks, so Pedro Jimenez Oloroso. And for our Geneva, we use first fill bourbon casks.
Right.
Okay, so European oak for our single malt, American oak for our Genevers.
And how long are you leaving it in there? How old?
We have Genevers up until 30 years old, aged. We still have some barrels already of 35, 36 years old. For our single malt whiskey, the oldest casks that we have for the moment are around 14 years old. But we're building up.
Yeah, well, it's a great story, a really great story. It's a really great company you've got there, a great group of people. I hope it goes well.
They're very passionate. It's all about experience. Consuming and drinking spirits is all about the experience around it. It's not just for drinking. So you need to create the experience, you need to create the exclusivity, you need to create the special taste. Having a digestif, as we call it here, something to drink after your dinner, those times are over. You just drink to enjoy your spirit.
And just a quick word, it's Whisky Unscripted, a quick word about the whisky scene in Belgium. for our listeners? What's it like if you've not been? Is it a healthy scene?
It is a very healthy thing, and it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. You see that the spirit drinker in Belgium is more and more appreciating aged spirits that have hard label into them. They are more and more appreciated. Quantities are going down, but quality is going up dramatically. And as you have seen over the last 20 years, it was mainly the Scottish aged whiskies, the more premium whiskies, that really made for the push and the interest of the Belgian consumer. Now you see that also New World whiskies and other aged spirits are really increasing in terms of turnover.
Right, that's a really fascinating insight into
Belgian
whisky and the whole world of whisky. Listen, it's now 11:25. We've got a long day ahead of us.
Indeed. It was a long day yesterday and still 2 long days to come.
And your coffee's getting colder, so I'll let you go. Listen, thank you very much, Koenraad. Great to speak to you. All the best.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye, Gordon. Bye-bye.
There we go. Just great to hear a sort of different spin on the world of whisky, Geneva to single malt to importing. So quite a multifaceted business, that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And, I think it shows you, I think what we've tried to show in the podcast over the years, 2 years, is the cogs in the wheel that go through, a distributor network. So, for example, the release of Tamdhu Distinction, we have priority markets, which are our top tier markets. So they're Australia, Germany, Holland, the UK, America, Canada a little bit, and Asia. So when we release a limited amount of whiskey like Distinction, and we're really working with our specialist retail network, we're working through our distributors. So we're working with our distributors like Monnick or like Borco in Germany or our people in America to get that into the market, into the right type of retailers that understand that whiskey as well as can sell it to the people that want to get it. So it's an amazing sort of cog system, which, if we're honest, in the last 18 months has lost a tooth or two. It's not running as smoothly as it used to, not because of anything we do or what our distributor does, but all the elements in the middle. Firstly, from our perspective, the sourcing of the sort of dry goods, as we would call it, the bottle, the corks, the cardboard, is really, really difficult. The shipping, the price of containers are now 5 times what they were. All of this means it's a Brexit to a certain extent, but not really when you're shipping that amount. So all these things have caused that whole system to be under strain. It's not just whiskey. We've seen it across everything. And even, for example, in the States, I was hearing there's 80,000 lorry drivers. They're short of lorry drivers in the States, as we are, as everybody is. So all that's been put under strain, but it's great that we can still work with these guys under those circumstances. We still ultimately get to where we want to be. It's just the timing can't always be as slick as it used to be.
It's a fascinating insight, Gordon. And even before I came into the world of whisky, I would never have thought all this was happening. So it's a great way you've explained it there about selling it into distributors who then get it into the right wholesalers who know the right customers. And it's an amazing way of breaking it down that many people maybe don't think of. Another thing I wasn't thinking of, just to wrap up, Gordon, I'm on to some research, coming back with some challenges next time. We've run out of time at the moment, so I will have some answers. You just need to give me the questions.
Oh, I love that game.
We're doing that as well. But I'm also in the middle of research. There's a lady who is in my local village here. She goes back into the late 60s. Working in a bar here in Glasgow, and she remembers getting labels and had to put the labels on the bottles and then get the cask of whiskey come in and they would fill the bottles in the bar. Now, that didn't happen internationally for shipping. So, and she gave me, I'll hold it up here just now, one of the little, sort of, if it was a fancy bottle of whiskey, you put on this, it's almost like a wee medal made of sort of gold, plated bit of tartan, and you put it over the top of the bottle, over the neck, and it said Scotch. So I'm investigating, did producers in Glasgow send out barrels to pubs who fill the bottles themselves. She remembers it. So a little bit of social history, Gordon. That's going to be my subject of discussion for the next few weeks, and see. It's just I love all that stuff about.
That's brilliant.
That's brilliant. How it got to the lips, as it were. So that's what I'm up to this week. Anything, Gordon? Yourself? Are you on to something?
No, I've got a few things. I'm off to Glengoyne very shortly, which is nice. We've got some new people who've joined the business, so I'm inducting them a little bit with Glengoyne, and then just a busy week of doing other things. I was meant to be going obviously off to Holland, so I've got a weekend at home, so that's going to be all good. So looking forward to this coming out, and then we'll probably do maybe a couple more before Christmas. We'll take a break.
Yeah, I'll do a wee gifting episode and all that stuff. So that'd be great. And then a wee special, maybe to finish it all off at the end of the year.
Fabulous.
Out and about. Great.
And if anybody's got anything they want us to cover, drop us a message, drop us an email on the Instagram account. You can get to the join us on Instagram. Come on, join us on Instagram, Facebook. We will cover that for you. And we'll speak to you soon.
Great. Enjoy the whiskey, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.
Bye-bye.